Ben şimdi oturumlarımıza geçmek istiyorum ve ilk oturumumuzun başlığı VF'in Sürdürülebilirlik Yolculuğu. Öncelikle moderatörümüzü davet etmek istiyorum. Uluslararası Giyim Federasyonu Genel Sekreteri Matyas Kriete, VF EMEA Bölgesi Kıdemli Sürdürülebilirlik Direktörü Sayın David Quas ve Gelişim Tekstil Pazarlama ve Satış Direktörü Sayın Dilek Güçlüer'i bu oturum için sahneye davet ediyorum efendim. Buyurun.
Dear distinguished guests, we are very glad to be here in Istanbul in what I believe is probably the most beautiful location for a conference in the world. I think you can have that status. I would like to thank TGSD for inviting us to this panel and for putting together such a strong conference. Sitting here on the stage, you truly appreciate with how many you have come, and that's always a specific pleasure when in Turkey and attending an apparel and textile association meeting. And I would like to congratulate all of you with the 100th anniversary of the Turkish Republic. So I would first like to introduce the two speakers that we have here in this panel. David Quas, who is the Senior Sustainability Director, EMEA for VF, the well-known VF Corporation, and Dilek Güçlüer, the Director of Marketing and Sales of Gelişim Tekstil. My name is Matthijs Kriete. I'm the Secretary General of the International Apparel Federation, of which Mr. Cemal Tan is the President. It's the global federation for garment manufacturers, and we are proud that TGSD and IGIP are both members of the International Apparel Federation. Now, just a very brief introduction on the topic before we turn to David. If you compare a conversation on sustainability today with 5 years ago, we can say a lot has changed and a lot has not changed. So what is new is that the urgency is much greater. We all feel it. Just look at this summer that we have experienced. But legislation is playing a much bigger role too. And what is new also is that we have more technological solutions available. But on the other hand, the actual changes in our industry take place too slow. And the way that buyers and suppliers interact in the supply chain really sits at the heart of that barrier to faster change. So I think we're lucky to hear in this session from a brand or a conglomerate of brands and from a manufacturer on how they approach sustainability and how they view the collaboration that is needed to accelerate in our shift to a more sustainable industry. So, having said that, I would now like to invite David Quas to come to the stand and present the sustainability journey of VF.
Thank you. Friends, what a pleasure to be with you this morning. I'm David. Before we dive in, let me share a bit about my life. So I'm based in southern Switzerland. I'm a country, by the way, that imports far more than 80% of its resources from elsewhere. I took off yesterday in the morning, so I live in Lugano. I took a cab to Milano, took a plane to Brussels, where yesterday I spent the full day on ESG files and understanding where we stand. I flew into Istanbul last night, and tonight I'm gonna go back home to Milano and then back into Switzerland. I spoke to my family this morning, and by the way, they send their best regards. They are stunned with this place. I stayed in a beautiful hotel. I had awesome breakfast with a magnificent view. So in a way, my life and the system I live my life in, and if I can be bold, how we live our lives is adding pressure. It's adding pressure across a variety of elements. If we look at freshwater diversity over the last 50 years, think rain cycles that are getting out of sync. Think freshwater supply and availability. Think biodiversity and how the variety of species is declining, soil health, and how increasingly more difficult it gets to grow crops, be it for food or be it for apparel. And of course, warming. And this, by the way, is the last 150 years of warming for Istanbul. And for those who live here, you can speak with much more authority than I can to what extreme weather events have meant for this place. And the reason for warming is pollution, if you will. We've heard about greenhouse gas emissions, we hear about carbon, but that's really what it does. It acts like a blanket, like a pollution blanket that traps heat in this thin layer called the atmosphere that provides life to us. And that's becoming an increased problem. Carbon in itself is good. We are all carbon, but too much is becoming a problem. And as mankind over the last 15 years, we have been transgressing more and more planetary boundaries, from water supply to biodiversity, all the way to novel entities like microplastics or plastics at large, all the way to fertilizer use that we need to grow things. And the pressure is rising. And against that backdrop, there is VF, a company that's more than 120 years old and has been transforming many times in its journey. Currently, our portfolio holds 12, hopefully known brands. On an annual base, we produce around 370 to 400 something million units, depending on the year. We are distributed in more than 125 countries. And it's a massive operation that we run with more than 35,000 employees worldwide. And there's VF'in Turkey, a country that is very close to our hearts. In the EMEA, the European, Middle East, and African region, for VF, Turkey is our biggest sourcing country. We source more than 40% of volume out of this beautiful country. More than 11 million SKUs. There's more than 1,000 sales points that we also sell VF product at. There's more than 100 employees, VF employees that we have, and some of them are here as well. So Turkey's been very close to our business. And our business really has been marked by the pursuit to power active lifestyles for the betterment of people and the planet. And the planet, as you can imagine, is what I'm talking about. And I have to, because when we look at the impact of VF, more than 70% come of our Tier 5 to Tier 2 operations. And yes, there are targets in the VF that we have to transform our top 9 materials, which is pretty much everything that we do, into more preferred options. And yes, our commitment for net zero in 2050 remains unwavering. But it's a challenge, because thus far, growth has been linked to enhanced unit production, which in absolute term results in more absolute impact. Yes, we can realize unit efficiencies, but in absolute terms, that is the picture. And the same is in reverse. And of course, we can debate what economic growth is supposed to be measured against, and that's a session for another day. But the big challenge really is to decouple future growth from impact. And honestly, it's something that is unresolved. As an industry, we don't know how to do it yet. But the pressure to find solutions definitely is on. In VF, until 2030, we aim to reduce our Scope 3 emissions, our indirect supply chain emissions, by 30%. And it's a challenge. And we need to solve against that challenge. And a path to transformation is actually looking like this. So I want you to remember that curve, because that curve represents pressure, but that curve also represents the solution. And one very exciting way that this curve represents the solution is in renewable energies. We see an incredible uptake in renewables across the various renewable energy types, from solar to wind to hydropower. Incredible growth rates over the last years. We see at the same time how countries are picking up and banking on renewable energy creation. And I understand Turkey by 2050 aims to 10x its solar PV capacities. At the same time, costs are falling sharply because of increased production of clean energy. We see how capital flows are changing and moving from fossil fuels into clean energy. We are living through this right now. And all of this is happening against a backdrop where fossil fuels globally are still being subsidized with more than 680 million USDs per hour. That is more than 11 million per minute. The newly elected EU Commissioner for the Green Deal last week has announced that one of his targets will be to lower governmental subsidies flowing into fossil fuels. If that is being followed through, imagine what the curves that you've seen earlier will start to look like. Another transformation that we see happening is with regards to how we show up in the marketplace. Gone are the days of voluntary claims, voluntary disclosures. The transformation we see relates to governance, but also the means by which we engage with the consumer. Across the EU and across all the regulatory files and developments that are being discussed, the biggest pressure actually lies on delivering ESG and sustainable finance. This includes greenwashing, this includes reporting and disclosures, and it includes risk management. And we have heard about the need for sustainable finance just early in the opening comments. So let me be very clear. As an industry, we are going to be a regulated industry. This is vastly different to how we have been doing business in sustainability, in the realm of sustainability thus far, where, as said, disclosures, claims was based on voluntary measures. This will be history. It's going to be a messy process. It's going to be a messy couple of years, but the direction is set. We are going to be regulated. This is different. And as a result, the third big transformation that we see relates to our supply chain. And supply chain in terms of transparency. And only what we know we can measure and we can influence. It relates to joint data protocols. How do we create data? How we share data across the supply chain, across various actors, into accounting bodies. It's terribly technical, but it's terribly important. It's about primary data and helping us to understand our impact and how we optimize against that. And it's about digitization. And we've heard about the power of AI earlier, and I'm looking forward to hear more about that later. But I confess, also in VF, we send out Excel sheets. We asked manufacturers to fill in Excel sheets, and poor you get the same from various brands. And you're asked to share upstream, and then we share back, and we need to do data quality cleaning. It's a mess. It's a lot of work if we want to scale progress in sustainability. That's not how it's going to work. And we need to find solutions to that. So the call to arms, the call to action that I have to all of you is to engage. Because your voice matters terribly. And this is an incomplete list of platforms that, if I can be very honest, I'm exposed way too little to those hard questions that were raised in the opening speeches as well on investments and who is going to invest. Is it the brand? Is it the supplier? How are we going to do this? Through the FOB or other means? What are those long-term partnerships that we need to forge? How are we going to do this? We need to have your perspective. We need to go through that friction and the tension in the discourse to come up with solutions. Because in the end, what's needed is action. And let me close with what motivates action. There was a survey done very recently, released at the New York Climate Week, that was probing into what would motivate action. The survey was done across the G20 states, excluding Russia, and concepts that were put in front of people for action were like, is it statistics, like the curves and the graphs you've seen earlier? Is it economic growth? Is it fear? Is it economic prosperity going forward? Is it science? Is it net? What motivates action? And there was one motivator that stood out above all others. And that one motivator is love. It's love. It's love for our families. It's love for each other. It's love for the planet. It's love. So what I want to call upon you is to be bold, to engage, to don't be fearful, to create friction, also towards us from a brand side. Raise those uncomfortable questions that make us rumble through what we have to rumble through. Because the world and the planet, they need you. So I'm looking forward to the discourse to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, David. And I think it reminds us, the way you end, it reminds us that after all, we are a people's business. There's, I think, no other business in the world that is so much a people's business, where so many people are employed, but also where the change requires so much of all of us. So this is very interesting. Two other things I'd just like to highlight before we move to the next speaker. I think your call to action is exactly right. That is, I like the way you say we have to rumble through these discussions. So I would like to invite everybody to take that invitation and to have those discussions, both on an individual level, in the individual relation between manufacturers and suppliers, and also through the association. And that is something at IAF we work with a lot, to have those buyer-supplier discussions on a collective level. Because it's pretty clear we have to do it all together. As a third part for manufacturers, you showed us that the tier 3 is where most of the climate action needs to happen, right? So that's the biggest chunk. And some of you are integrated businesses, but a lot of you buy the fabric. So then it is for the garment manufacturer a question of determining what is exactly the role to play, what service can be developed to get data from fabric suppliers to incentivize the fabric supplier to come up with more environmentally friendly products. And that's a sort of intermediate role that's not always easy to determine. So have those discussions with the supplier. And now it is my pleasure to ask Dilek to give the presentation on your company, on how you're dealing with this issue of sustainability in your own company and with your clients.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And thank you, David, for the nice presentation, lovely presentation. Herkese günaydın, hoş geldiniz. Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy and excited to be here today. On behalf of Gelişim Tekstil, I would like to thank the Turkish Clothing Manufacturers Association for this lovely conference, to all the management and all the team that organized this occasion. Today I would like to give you a brief information about my company. Gelişim Tekstil is a garment manufacturer company. We are producing circular knit garments since 1995, and we are under Gelişim Group umbrella. In our Gelişim Group, we have Gelişim Tekstil located in Istanbul. We have Gelişim Adıyaman, located in, of course, Adıyaman, founded in 2009. We have Anadolu Gelişim Schools, which is in Konya, mid of Anatolia. We have opened the school in 2017. And we have Gelişim Solar Energy under our umbrella, which is founded in 2019. Then we have Anadolu Gelişim Tekstil, which is founded in 2020, is a sister company who manufactures garments again. And our latest investment is Gelişim Dye House, which has opened the doors at the end of 2022. And we are proud of our innovations, our sustainable business we work with. So today I would talk a bit about Gelişim Tekstil's environmental sustainability approach. Of course, sustainability is a huge area, but I will only focus on environmental aspects. When we moved to our new building in 2020, of course, sustainability is a long journey business. We started long ago, but we had taken big steps in 2020 when we moved to our new building. We made an we installed an industrial wastewater treatment system, and we are gaining 80% of the water we use. We first started the corporate carbon footprint calculation again in the same year. We still continue to calculating, of course. We have established a sustainability department and sustainability committee in the same year also. In 2021, we had life cycle assessment for core product of T-shirt. In 2022, we monitored our greenhouse gas emissions with our Carbon Plus program, which reduces carbon emissions with the solar energy systems. Again, in the same year, at Q4, we opened our Gelişim Dye House, which we had the latest technology of machinery with the most environmental friendly systems and also less water use. You can see some pictures from our dye house and knitting here. In 2023, in cooperation with VF, we will have an energy audit which will be carried out by an approved audit company. And I would like to talk about a bit our certifications and approvals. Of course, we started this journey, as I mentioned, long ago, but in 2016, we had the first GOT certification. Through years, we had several OCS, GRS, many certifications, and we had been in HIG Index, ICS, lots of steps we have taken, and of course, it will continue for a long time. Now I would like to talk about a bit about our sustainability journey with VF and Gelişim Tekstil. This will be only raw material based journey because we do a lot of works all together, but today only we will focus on raw materials. In 2000, we started to work with VF in 2012. The first brand which we started to work with was Timberland, and at that year we started with organic cotton. In 2013 we started to work with Napapiri and the North Face. On that years we used conventional cotton as well as organic cotton. At those times BCI was not a raw material, BCI cotton was not talked a lot, but in 2015 BCI cotton and organic cotton came into our life. Between 2016 and 18, we used only 100% BCI cotton. We decided not to use any conventional cotton in our company, although there was no request from our customers. So, according to us, we had a big step by using only BCI. Then, one of the major milestones was in 2019. We started to develop 100% recycled cotton products developments with TNF. In this journey, we have made a lot of trials, I can say, which many people told that it is really hard to do, but we achieved it all together. In 2020, the Keys was on board. And also in 2020, we had the first shipments of recycled, 100% recycled cotton garments. Coming to 2021, here we had another big step. We started to work with regenerative cotton raw material. Regenerative cotton was at that time a very new idea coming to ears. We had the first developments on that time, and then in 2022, we made our first shipments together. Now coming to today, in 2023, we started to deal with Good Earth cotton, and this is also a new step in our journey. I can say that this was a long journey, and of course it will continue to be developed. Right now we are trying to make the best follow-up, the most up-to-date raw materials for sustainability. And I would like to thank you very much for listening to me. This was a very brief information from my side. Thanks a lot for your time, and I hope we will talk together with David and Matthias. Sorry.
So I would like to thank you very much, Dilek, for showing us the insights into your company's journey. About to wrap up this session. Just reacting to what you said. We know on a collective level the industry has to make a lot of better arrangements for the sustainability journey of the entire industry to speed up. But I think your story shows that on an individual level, just by taking the initiative, and I guess sometimes taking the risk that is associated with that, you can make big steps and distinguish yourself from other companies. So it's always a play between individual actions and the collective that we have to get right. But it's a very impressive story.
Thank you.
So I would like to thank you, Dilek and David, very much for showing an insight into your company's sustainability journeys. I wish you all the best for the rest of the journey, which is probably never over, I suppose. And I would like to thank you very much for your attention.